Hi, welcome to the Craft Channel. My name's Corinne and if you're scared of zips, I can't say I blame you, but zips are one of those things once you've done them and you've realised how you do them, they're the simplest thing in the world. So to get you started, I'd like to show you how to make a very simple zipped makeup bag. Very small, very neat. The lining of it is just felt, so you could also use it as a jewellery pouch, but it does involve a zip. And I'm hoping to try and make zips easier for you. Now you can make this size bag from a fat 16th of fabric, which I have here. This is quite a nice funky print. Fold it in half right sides together. And I have a template here, which will be available if you check the description downstairs, down below. And draw around your template with a soft pencil. Something like a 2B or even softer than that, because what you can do is you can get a nice decent line on there without it rucking the fabric up. Now just before we cut that out, I'm just going to pin that to make sure the two halves stay together. And as I say, this is with a fat 16th of fabric. What I am also going to do is this bit on the end here, I'm just going to trim away because we'll need that in a minute. Pop that to the side, try not to lose it. And then just trim out your pattern pieces, adding that 5mm seam allowance. Cut these away. And we're going to cut away these corner intersections so that you can make a flat base to the bag. Some people call it a feed sack bottom. I don't really know what I call it, but it just makes a nice base to your bag so that it will sit flat and it gives it a bit of depth. So again, just trim these out and don't throw these scraps of fabric away. As you know, I am the woman that never throws any scraps of fabric away, but there's a definite reason for this, because this is what's going to make your zip much easier to fit into the bag. I'll just pop this over here for a minute. I've got a nice zip here, nice bright yellow, which is just a little bit longer than the bag. So what I'm going to do is I am going to shorten the length of the zip. But first of all, I'm going to get this off cut, fold over one end of it, grab yourself a decent fabric glue and stick this to the zip here, just to hold it together on the opening end. I am going to trim away the extra tape on the zip because zip tape's actually quite stiff, and when you're turning corners inside out, it can mean that you don't get a particularly clean corner. And then I'm just going to fold in that other end. Again, add a bit of glue. And fold it back over here. So from inside and out, your zip is covered. Okay. Now again, this zip is slightly too long. So what I want to do is I really want a needle and thread, but I haven't got one to hand. I'm just going to go to the sewing machine. I'm going to set it to a zigzag stitch. And very carefully, just check that it will, it goes over the zip, the teeth of the zip. Sew several times over that zip so that it's got a stopper on it. What you can also do, you can take this metal thing off with a pair of pliers and refit it, but it's a lot of mucking about and it's much easier just to sew it and then simply cut the end of your zip off. Makes it a much better length for your bag, and then we'll neaten the end in exactly the same way that we did the front of the zip, top of the zip. That's with a bit of glued fabric over the ends. Now if you're a perfectionist, what you can do is you can just top stitch that across the zip, but this fabric glue that I'm throwing across the table, I've found that actually it holds really, really well, even if it's in the wash. As long as it's not over about 40 degrees, it holds really well. So that's neatened the ends of your zip, and automatically that makes putting a zip in so much easier, because you've actually got a much more flexible end to it. You can get a much neater finish. So while that glue dries, I'm just going to show you how we line the bag. I've got a lovely piece of royal purple velvet, which, as you can see, I haven't ironed. And I'm going to lay my cotton right side up on it. Pin, oh, that's that bent pin that's going in the bin. Pin it. And then trim it down. Rotary cutter and a steel edge ruler is perfect for this, because you can keep it on the flat. And I don't know about you, but when I learned domestic science at school, my sewing teacher always said to me, don't ever lift fabric up in the air to cut it, you must cut it flat. And she has got a point, in all honesty, even though I disagreed with her at the time, but then I was only 12. We cut those bits out. Just in case you're wondering, I have got a bin down there. I'm not just chucking my rubbish on the floor. Snip out these bits. Like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zigzag stitch all the way around this shape so that it holds the lining to the fabric and neatens it. So I'm going to have a 3mm wide zigzag by about a 2mm long. You can start anywhere you like. And just so. Same with normal stitching. When you get to a corner, make sure your needle's in before you lift the foot to pivot. Just bear with me a sec, because my pedal is sliding across the floor. Only just in the fabric there. The reason you want to make sure that your needle is in the fabric when you pivot it is because once you've released that foot, there's nothing else holding the fabric in place. And if it ends up sliding out, then you can end up with long loopy bits of thread. And we're back to the beginning. So what that has done is that has bound your lining to your fabric, and it means that you'll get a much neater finish. It won't fray on the inside. And now you can fit the zip. So if your bag is like this, and your zip wants to be like this, you need to place it face down on this strap. And what I would suggest you do is, if you line up where you've got these tabs, line them up so they're in the middle, and just simply pin it in place. Now you can change to a zipper foot on this. You don't have to. It's not, you know, I'm not actually going to sew close. It's not as if you're sewing an invisible zip on a dress. But what you can do is you can sew it and line up the left-hand side of your foot with the teeth of the zip. And also before you do that, you need to check that you're not still in zigzag stitch. Lock it in. And when you get to this bit, you'll think, well, hang on a minute, because there's a great big lump here, which is the zip pull, and you're never going to get your foot over that. So stop about an inch or so away from it, put your needle in, but raise it as high as you dare before it comes out, and then you can simply lift it, open the zip beneath the foot. Oh, just going to move that pin cushion. And then carry on where you left off. Like so. Yeah. Nice straight zip. And then you need to sew it to the other side. So I'm going to unzip it. Again, line it up. And again, stop about an inch away from the zip pull, make sure your needle's down, lift your presser foot, and then from the inside, do that zip back up again. And it just means that it gives you a clear run at the teeth. So there you go, your zip's in your bag quite painlessly. And then all we need to do is sew the sides of the bag up. Now unzip your bag before you do this because you're working inside out and you will need to turn it the right way round eventually. Get rid of some of these ends of cotton. So if you just take this bit of the bag and move that out of the way, because you don't want that involved in the stitching because it will act as a corner and you want it to be quite loose. And like I've said before, it's a lot easier to sew into an intersection than it is to start at the intersection and work away, because you can actually see what you're doing. And you just want to sew these sides up. And because you've already zigzag stitched them, you don't need to worry too much about raw edges. Take that pin out. And snip it. And we'll do the same with the other side. Sew up as far as you can. And then the reason you've got these two notches cut out of the back, the bottom edge of this bag, is what you can do is you can create that feed sack bottom or box bottom by flattening one against the other, like so, and stitching across. You don't need to cut the notches out, you can actually do it. If you imagine, if you had a corner on there, all you would do is simply pull it apart like this and line up the bottom crease with the side seam so they laid parallel to each other. So, Oh, I'm the worst person for leaving long ends of cotton everywhere. And it's not so bad if you use a colour that actually matches the material, but I tend to stick with white for these videos just so that you can see the contrast. Turn it inside out. Press out the box bottom of your bag. And then where you've got your zip, you can simply just push. I wouldn't get a pair of scissors in there. I wouldn't try and push it out really far, but you can push it out enough that you've just got like a little curved piece of fabric that covers the end of the zip. And it's a really neat finish. Okay, actually I will just ease that out. That's better. But don't be afraid to trim your zips down to suit your purpose, because, as I say, that tape on it is quite stiff and it can spoil the look of it. So there you got, great little zipped makeup bag. And then the reason we've saved this is because I'm going to make a little bow. So I've kept it folded in half. I'm going to start in the middle of one edge. Sew down to a corner. Pivot it and then just sew diagonally up here. Sew down this edge. And sew again diagonally at that end. And leave about the 3 or 4 centimetre gap in the middle of that edge so that you can turn it the right way out. Clip off these bits, clip off your corners. And then turn it the right way around. This is when I think, oh, a pair of tweezers would have come in handy here. And you don't have to do this. This is just an aside, and it's, you know, there was a strip of fabric left over from that fat 16th. Fat 16th? Yeah, it was a fat 16th. I think I might have called it a fat 8th earlier. So if you think about it, you can get 16 of these bags out of 1 metre of fabric. I think. Yes, you can. It's too late in the day for me to actually do maths. Just turn this out. And I'm not even going to bother sewing that hole up in the centre. What I am going to do is I'm just going to simply knot this. So I've made a neat little bow that will then just go, and you can hand stitch this to the end of your bag. I'm just going to pin it for now. Or even glue it if you're that lazy. Oh, I can't even pin this in place now. Just so that you've got something to hold on to while you unzip your bag. That's pinned on really badly, please forgive me. As you can see from this one that I made earlier, I've actually sewn it into place, and I've actually turned out the points of it properly. So again, that's just a little decorative aside. There was a piece of fabric left over. I thought, well, what can I do with that? So we'll pop it on there. The other thing also that I wanted to quickly tell you is you don't have to line it with felt. It's easier if you've got something smooth, so don't just use quilt wadding, because that will just start getting all roughed up if you're putting things in there. But if you've got not an old carrier bag, but a freezer bag, for example, that's been washed out, don't throw it away, because what you can do is you can flatten it out when you've washed it, and you can use that to line a bag with, and that makes a neat little wet bag. So it's not going to be completely waterproof because obviously there's stitch holes in it, but if you've got a damp bikini or something like that and you just want to put it in a bag without it getting all the rest of your clothes wet, you can utilise an old freezer bag as the lining and just stitch it to the fabric in the same way as I did the felt. And then that's one less bit of plastic in the ocean. So, have fun with these bags. As I say, there'll be a template for you to download if you check the description below. And I hope you enjoy them. We will do some more sewing for you very, very soon. So I hope you catch up with us then. Thank you. Bye-bye. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.